Hello, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are Remarkist, communities of fans who watch television shows and movies together virtually, but as if we're in the same room, gathered around the same television. We do this using the Clubhouse app, and we would love to have you join us for future watches. You can simply make an account on Clubhouse and search for our name Remarkist to find our club. Or if you'd like more information about the project as a whole, please visit remarkist.com to learn lots more about who we are and what we do. As for our recordings, remember that we always get our episodes started but paused at the 0-second mark and count down to pressing the play button together at the same time. That way, our experience can be as synced up as possible. You can pause this for a moment to get that set up, or if you're ready to go, let's get this thing started.
All right, so we are going to, everyone is going to hit their play button at the same time on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
I love Prague.
Prague is nice. When I went, I found it to be very, very, very pricey.
It is beautiful. I went a couple of years ago.
One of my memories of Prague was buying a $12 Subway sub sandwich, like from Subway in Prague.
I think your problem is that you were eating Subway in Prague, John.
Yeah, I know. That was probably the problem.
Emily would be that person that reads the newsletter cover to cover every single time. Timestamp, please.
We're at 1:15.
Thank you.
Not just read it cover to cover, but like immediately as soon as it comes out.
Sorry, one more time.
1:57.
Thank you.
Fraternizing with the enemy. She doesn't. What?
No avocados. She doesn't like avocados.
She doesn't like avocados. Is that a thing we've learned yet, or is that just?
Yeah, you were talking when we just over it.
There we go. There we go.
$98.
So this shows the time machine.
It's so weird that I grew up the same age as Rory and remembering all of that. And now I'm older and it's weird.
That's all I'll say is just,
I kind of felt the same way as Rory right before my first dance when I was in middle school. And then I came home and I was like, well, I was right. And then I continued to go to school dance.
We only had like the big dances, like prom. I feel like we didn't have like
formal or anything like that?
No, we didn't really have like whenever I see this in television shows, I always feel like, what is that? Like, I mean, prom, yeah, but not like these like special types of.
My high school had like Valentine's Day and Sadie Hawkins and all sorts of dances.
We had.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've seen those in TV shows, but I didn't know what they were.
Yeah, we had mixers. We had homecoming, semi, cities.
Snow, lots of snow.
I always love seeing the town square all bustling in the background. It just seems so real.
Yeah. Yeah, background talent, man. Unsung heroes, really, truly. Don't get the credit that they deserve. Also notice that there's never any like frost coming out of the actors' mouths.
Yeah. Or noses that get red and like sniffling from the cold.
Exactly. I mean, whereas everything else looks utterly authentic, right?
My husband always joked that their winter gear was just horrible, like scarves never really tied tight, jackets never really closed.
I knew nothing about winter before I went up to Boston for my first time, and I did not pack right because of shows like this.
I feel like Dean was kind of like the bad boy here in this first season, right? He has this sort of like kind of bad boy, rough around the edges, doesn't go with the flow. That's not what I imagined from the character.
I feel like the
He's a
more I
Chicago
watch
kid.
it, the less I think of him as a bad boy. But I think the first couple of times through, I thought that.
They all change a lot as the show goes on.
Okay. Yeah, even Lorelai says like, the motorcycle reference, I mean, like he's sort of painted in these first few episodes as just like mysterious, tall, dark stranger, kind of pops up out of nowhere and, is just super cool, hasn't really been to a dance before. Yeah, sure, I'll go. These are all, I don't know, just, and I already know that there's another character that's coming that is a bad boy. So
I found it very interesting too that Lorelai, who doesn't have any real like domesticated housewife mom skills, can't cook to save her life, can sew a dress from nothing in a day.
which just further adds to her character and makes her like awesome.
Yes, I agree.
I've known people just like that though.
Well, remember she told Emily she made a quilt of Rory's clothes in the previous episode.
It's true. I regret not going to any dances. Well, except for like junior high, but then they weren't like dances. I also frequently say that when I'm talking about my parenting.
It's not even her prom.
Also, it's normal that a grandmother who doesn't have a huge relationship with their grandchild to not be at them getting ready for a dance.
This episode is going to really feed into John's love of Emily and her growth. And her issues with Lorelai.
But I do different.
That's why we do this.
This guy.
Jerk.
Can I just make one comment about Chad McMurray? I think I mentioned it earlier, but Sir Chad McMurray, gorgeous as he is, went to my high school. Well, graduated in '99, but went to my high school, and I had his guidance counselor when I was in high school. He was dope. I love it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I know. I even met his dad back in '07 because he literally grew up in my neighborhood. It was dope.
And Tristan is obviously a pretentious kind of jerk, but the more times I watch the show, the more I actually do like him.
I hope we get to see some vulnerability from that character.
We'll see. They definitely have good banter. I just don't know if it's the good kind or not.
I mean, he does keep up, and he is quick and witty and funny, which is more than you would expect from anybody at that school.
I feel like Paris has used the flu excuse before. She's definitely projecting.
I love that little moment.
Timestamp.
15:36.
I don't get why she has both of her eyes closed when she only sprayed it in one eye.
She does a lot of very funny physical gags in this
Yeah, I was
show.
gonna say that's just some classic physical comedy.
That's a good movie.
So cool. I don't really see the set anymore. Like it's just like it's all of the production is kind of falling away from me. Like I'm really seeing this as a real place, which is cool. I don't know if that would have been the case if I had watched this back when we were doing the show.
It's cool that you like kind of know the set and like what it all looks like, and that it still looks like real to you. I mean, they did a really good job.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I wonder if it'll feel that way with the places that, the apartments that you guys live in.
I have a feeling that will be a little harder for me.
Yeah, once you come into it. But at least that means that you're getting into it enough that you can see it this way now. I think it's pretty normal.
I just have this vision of Emily at the club, like, look at all these pictures of my granddaughter that I just developed from last night.
I don't know why she's listening to her.
Well, I haven't.
That's a little over the top.
It's super unfair.
Yeah, that's tough.
When you were talking about Lorelai and Emily yesterday, I was waiting for this episode.
This is good.
So I've heard that couch is not that comfortable.
I still want to sit on it.
Have we talked about the clown pillow?
No. What's the clown pillow?
There's a clown pillow in their house, and there's a Twitter account for it. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, especially this dance here with like tables and food and stuff. Like, I mean, when she mentioned like that they eat chicken, I was like, that doesn't sound like any dance that I've ever even seen.
We only had food at proms. Like we had homecomings and like mixers, like I said, but we never had food at our dances unless it was prom.
Yeah, we didn't have food. We had to go eat beforehand.
Yeah, we didn't have food. Not even at prom. We ate beforehand.
We had pizza.
And y'all made me order a pizza last night. Don't do it again.
Where I live, nobody delivers pizza or anything, so I'm just jealous that you can get it delivered.
It makes you feel better. I tried to order pizza tonight, and it was kind of a disaster. So, John, on your last Facebook post about this episode, I posted a screenshot of the evil clown pillow.
I'll check it out.
This is peak high school drama. I loved this as a teenager when I was watching it. I just ate it all up.
we said shout out to the background actors earlier, and I think this is all one shot. So shout out to all the people who have to like keep on dancing throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, for real. Who's? Oh yeah, that's. Also the high school dance style, just hands on the hips, hands on the shoulders, rock back and forth.
What about like when you would put your hands on their shoulders and they would put their hands on your shoulders and like you'd sway like that? That was cool.
In high school in the 90s, it was just girls sitting on one side of the place and guys sitting on the other side, and nobody really touched or danced or did anything.
See, Emily's enjoying being a mother right now.
I love this. I'm loving Emily right now. Of course.
I knew it.
As I'm sure you all knew.
The more I watch, the more I love Emily.
That may change.
Oh.
It's just starting, John. The episode is just starting. You have seen nothing yet. I love
When I was
that.
younger, I actually tried that to see if it actually was gross. It is.
Okay, things are starting to really heat up here.
Sick burns. As an accountant, that line always makes me so sad.
Because I'll kill you, you idiot.
Well, if he's an accountant, he's the hottest accountant I've ever seen.
He can
I
do
was gonna-
taxes.
I was gonna say Dean saying "because I'll kill you, idiot" was actually pretty hot.
I mean, they're both
Totally.
hot, so.
No, oh God, I love Chad Michael Murray.
That location is from Wedding Bell Blues too, right?
Hey,
Yes.
Wow, I never noticed that.
I don't think that's
Wait,
really a
and
spoiler.
also there's another episode too where it's from, but I won't spoil it.
stop spoiling.
Not a teacher to be found in that whole dance.
For real.
Yeah, ours would
Teachers
sit on the
tend to
sideline
hide.
and yell at everyone.
Yeah, teachers like to hide during dances.
This is the cutest part. Wait for it, guys.
Oh my God, stop it. Stop.
Dawn, are you okay?
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
You were warned, John. You were warned.
Yes, this was great. This is great.
Just wait.
God, Dean is so cool. He is so cool. I love this guy.
Are you developing a man crush, John?
I said it before. I am Team Dean all the way. All the
Okay,
way.
first of all, I feel like
You
we
have a
can't
lot more
an
episodes
opinion
before you pick
that
a team.
strongly.
Yes. You're only 9 episodes in, John.
He's entitled to his opinion from what he's seen. Just let him be.
He's always been Dade.
It's Babsy here. Like the only problem with that is that John has a Team Jess sweater, and so now what is he doing with that now that?
Oh yeah.
Let's reevaluate at the end of the series.
End of the season, more like it.
Are we gonna watch A Year in the Life?
It is the consensus.
We
That's
better.
that is a boyfriend and girlfriend right there.
Okay, if we're gonna watch every single episode, that's gonna take years, guys.
No, it's not. We're watching
If
one
it's
a
every
day.
night, it'll be
It's
a
gonna
little
take
over.
half
Or,
a year.
yeah,
Oh,
less than
okay.
half a year.
Yeah,
Very
because
good.
it was only 7 years for one a week.
No, true.
We might have to split up the winter, spring, summer, and fall though, because they're an hour and a half each.
I do exactly what Rory does. I bring a book with me.
I get the chills every time I hear that.
And so begins the real episode.
Wait a second. I thought the real episode was beginning 10 minutes ago.
Well, yes, but okay. Then here
Just
comes,
watch.
Yeah.
No spoils. Just let him watch.
The bad boy from the market.
I think they said
He
bag
said
boy.
bag boy.
It's bag.
He said, yeah, bag boy.
It sounded like bad boy from the market.
You just want Dean to be a bad boy really badly.
He is a bad boy.
He's got a major bromance. Oh God.
Running barefoot in the street in the winter.
No breath showing.
Oh, I mean, the air looked downright warm, to be honest.
It's really like bright out for 5:30 in the morning.
Sorry, John.
Oof. This, folks, is what we call a reversal. I just can already feel where this is going, and I'm already getting tense.
I actually think this kind of parent is actually a really bad parent.
Look around, Mom. This is a life.
There's the confrontation we were talking about.
That was very powerful.
And I know that initially, like, there was obviously shock and terror of what could have happened, but
I told you, John.
Definitely a lot of it was because it was in front of her mom.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That was terrific. That was terrific.
I told you.
Good. Compared to what you were talking about with Emily last night, how are you feeling now?
Yeah.
Well, I don't fault Emily or Lorelai or any of them for what happened there. That was like a lot of fear. There was like, all these characters were like high on fear. They were high on mostly fear, like they didn't know where she was. And,
do you think Emily took it too far though?
So I think that I just think that Emily was like the worst of herself, because she doesn't handle stress well, clearly. She doesn't handle fear well. And I actually like really, I really loved that turn that Lorelai had. I just loved it. I thought that was so, well, I mean, just like, just storytelling wise, it was just so awesome, to just see her go from like,
she turned into her mother.
Yeah, defending, and then just like, just 180. I don't know. I didn't really totally interpret it as, I didn't interpret it as her turning into her mother. I actually thought it was solid, like, and totally legit, and she had every right to say what she said to Rory and to feel the way that she felt. That was a moment where I actually connected. I really connected to Lorelai, to be honest, in that moment, more so than in the scene right before where she's talking to her mother.
How do you feel about the way that Emily was with Rory and Dean before they went to the dance?
Super old school.
Wait, say again, who?
With Emily, the way that she was with Rory and Dean before the dance, when he was outside and they had already planned on him honking.
I thought it was quirky and goofy and silly and a bit annoying, but it didn't bother me that much. I mean, I don't think that it's that big a deal that he would be sort of pushed to come to the door. I thought it was just more of a character moment with her. It didn't really greatly affect how I feel about that character. I mean, I know she's weird. I know she's got those hang-ups, I feel sorry, in moments where I see her stress level peaking to a point that she can't control it, because I see that she wants to be more the person that she was with Lorelai that night before. She wants to be the mom. She wants to be loved by her. I actually have to pause here for a second and let you guys talk amongst yourselves, guys. My wife is about to blend the soup, and it's going to be very loud. It's going to be very loud, but I'm here and I'm listening. I just don't want you guys to hear the blender.
So
Okay.
I think that, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I think that the way that Lorelai reacted was totally normal and 100% validated in the way that she talked to Rory. And I love that she knows deep down that Rory's not going to do anything stupid, and she still stuck up for her in front of her mom, doesn't want her mom to think badly of her, but still has to be a parent. And I think that Rory kind of took that, that she was being treated unfairly when she totally wasn't.
Yeah, but I think, honestly, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Emily just because, I mean, I know different era, and so there was different standards and stuff, but I honestly feel like how she snapped at Lorelai was completely uncalled for. I know it was early and I know everyone was kind of stressed out, but there's a difference between being concerned for someone's well-being and someone's safety, and then totally going off the cuff and totally digging into someone. And so I feel like with Emily kind of making this about Lorelai and how oh, she's gonna get pregnant, you're gonna lose her type thing, I honestly feel like she went too far, and there's a time and place for that, and that definitely was not the time or the place for it. And so I kind of hated Emily in this episode because there was a different way she could have gone about that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to talk about before the episode started with how John felt about Emily and how it was going to be like a different thing tonight, because Emily, she tries to show how much she wants to be motherly and loving with Lorelai and trying to take care of her and, you know, pushing her hair behind her ears and loving on her and stuff. But then as soon as something goes wrong, she immediately is on the attack. Instead of trying to help, she's blaming Rory and acting like Rory's going to be exactly the same, which shows exactly the thing that we talked about yesterday, which was that Emily is still not over what happened with Lorelai. So she is pushing all of that onto now Rory, because she wanted to be there. She wanted to be motherly and loving, but now Rory messed up. And so she wants to take over and be the one that's in charge of that too. And she did something wrong.
Yeah, especially the part where Emily's talking about, like, I gave you the best of everything. I sent you to the best schools. You had all of this stuff. I made sure that, like, you were cared for, blah, blah, blah. Or however she said it. That just always rubs me the wrong way when parents do that. And it's becoming more and more of an issue. I mean, I live in New York, so it's, they're always like the Upper West Side, Upper East Side parents who, like, the kids have to have the best of everything. That just, as a general sort of phenomenon, always rubs me the wrong way, because it's just like the world belongs to these people, and it's like theirs to give to their children, and it's this passing down of like privilege and wealth. And I know that kind of defines the show, but it just really, like, she cannot see past herself, and like that is the only way to live. And it just really shows how she looks down on other people if they don't have those things to give to their children.
I agree with that.
I don't know. I
definitely agree
think,
with that.
I think everybody's maybe being a little bit too hard on her. Maybe it's partly because Emily is my favorite, but like, I think we could all agree we didn't see the best of her in that moment. But I think it just went to a place that was so raw for her, because she felt pure fear. It felt so similar to what she went through with Lorelai. And like, she wakes up all of a sudden in the morning and she's gone, and it's just sheer fear. And, when we're truly scared, we don't show the best of ourselves. So I don't know. I think maybe we're being a little hard on her.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why I relate to the character so much. I mean, because I am somebody who struggles with their stress level getting the worst of them. So when I see it in other people, I tend I just tend to understand, right? Because like, I just know what that said, I do agree with you, Sabrina, that actually what you're sort of referring to is something that's really independent of like her state of mind or mood. She does have this general feeling like the world is mine to give. And there is something about that is not cool.
Yeah.
And you do hope that at least I do, because I love the character. I hope that over time she starts to understand that part of herself is not right, But the nasty things that she says to Lorelai there in the moment, those are coming from a place of fear and anxiety and stress, and her inability to really control that, and there's something about it that, I mean, obviously, I want her to also get better at that, just as I want to get better at that in my own life. But I get it, and so, and I feel like that's too. I feel like that is part of what the writing is sort of showing there, right? Because it was just a scene before to see her truly love to take care of her daughter, like truly love to take care of her daughter in the simplest of ways, in the not like giving you the best education way, just in the simply, I want to make you something to eat, and I think that that's just as much Emily as the stress.
Yeah, Mary was flashing just a minute ago.
Yeah, actually, I think John took my words. I was going to say that Emily strikes me as the type of person who, when she's mad,
says things she doesn't quite think through and would probably want to take back later. And in that moment, she just flashed back to all of her feelings from the issues that she had with Lorelai. But I think the worst part is that she pushed Lorelai into the same mindset. So I think that had Emily not had her flip out, Lorelai would not have reacted on Rory the way that she did.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I totally agree. And I could totally see Emily freaking out about that. And I can't imagine her not freaking out the way she did. That's just her. You know, she's always going to go back to looking at Lorelai and comparing the two because of what she went through. And I agree, Nikki. I think that we're being a little too hard on Emily.
By the way, folks who are in the audience, the couch has lots more seats now. So anybody who wants to come on up and chat with us about the episode, please just raise your hand and I'll bring you up.
I honestly feel like, I mean, this is just my own thing and like my like upbringing and stuff, which I won't go into, but I just like, there's times where I love Emily and we'll see that as the series goes on. But I honestly feel like she kind of, I mean, everyone's, like I said before, everyone's going to freak out because your kid's not home in the morning. That's scary, yes. But honestly feel like, how can I say this nicely? She didn't need to, I honestly feel like she overstepped her grandma duties and she honestly didn't need to freak out the way she did because it's Lorelai's kid and Emily should know that Rory's not that type of kid that's going to go off and do reckless things and things like that. I just like, I don't know, honestly feel like I said before, Emily didn't have to react the way she did. But that's just
that is just how Emily is, though. She can't help but to react that way because like what you guys were saying earlier, her fears and her anxiety and just she just doesn't want what happened with Lorelai to happen with Rory, so it just kind of overtakes her. And I also think she just kind of, I don't know what I want to say there, so I'm just going to let somebody else speak.
She got some sort of a semblance of what she wanted Lorelai to be with Rory, because after they started going to Friday night dinners and Richard got all into Rory and knowing her better, she wanted Rory to be something different, and this is her being terrified that Rory's going to be exactly the same way and leave them the way that Lorelai left them.
That's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Beth.
It was just
that's legit scary. I can see how that would be very scary.
But in general, Emily doesn't have boundaries anyway. So if no matter whether it's Rory or Lorelai, she's always going to overstep. That's the constant tension we've got with Lorelai and Emily, and from the very beginning of the show. So whether it was Rory who messed up or Lorelai who messed up, Emily was going to react.
I have a lot of parallels with the show that way, as in my mom and I are best friends, and my grandmother is in the DAR and has a lot of things to say about the way that we live our lives. But it's the same way. Like she's just scared that one person is going to turn out like the other. So she sees all of the things that she suddenly thought that she was going to get out of having Rory in her life as now they're just going to be taken away from me. And then she reacted that way.
I think that in some ways this scene is like it's sort of a compressed psychological study of these characters, like so far these characters, you know, what we've seen from them, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've certainly had moments in my life where somebody that I cared about scared me, like in some way they didn't come home, you know, like I'm thinking maybe like back in the 90s, me and my sister used to share an apartment, I want to say that something like that happened where I expected her to be home by a certain point, you know, and she wasn't, and I got really scared, and like, and then when you do, it's not this moment of oh, thank God. The release, at least for me, the release is anger, you know, like immediately, like, you know, like, why did you put me through this? Why, you know, why, you know, it's just, and if you think about it, that's kind of like a more intense version of what seems to be going on with this family, like across years, right? There's this anger that that Emily has, and you know, Lorelai has toward them for what they feel they've done, what they feel they've done to them, you know, despite the fact that they love them, you know.
But think about Lorelai's reaction right after she gets the phone call from Miss Patty. She sits down and she's calm and she tells Emily, "I'm not going to do anything until Rory comes home and tells me what to do." And yet, it's Emily poking at her that gets her to flip. So I honestly feel like if Emily had just accepted what Lorelai had said and been like, "Okay, let's just sit down," then this entire situation, obviously, would be less interesting TV, but the entire situation of them yelling back and forth and then attacking into Rory, all of that could have been handled differently. So if, like, I just want to tell Emily to, like, just sit down, just wait, just sort of hold her and shake her and be like, stop, because Lorelai was actually wise in her reaction of, we're just going to wait and see what she said.
Yeah, I'm not, obviously we can't really know for sure because it didn't happen, but I'm not completely convinced that Lorelai wouldn't have been, to some degree, maybe she was pushed a little bit further, but to some degree more motherly and angry with Rory showing up in the morning. And I think that you could interpret her calmness as her attempt in that moment to try to keep her mother from doing what she almost was like instantly knew her mother would start doing.
Yeah, in my own personal experience, my grandmother has gotten my mother to be mad at me for things my mother would never have been mad at me about, but it was because she was unhappy with what I was doing and needed to step in and tell her how to handle herself, and the same kind of thing happened. Issues that, like, this is my life, my daughter, my family, but that's why before the show even started, I kept saying, like, well, your thing with Emily is it's gonna roller coaster today because it does.
I still love Emily. Like I said, I mean, I can see all of her flaws, and it's not like my love of that character doesn't mean that I'm not disappointed with behavior that, you know, that she does, but I guess I'm rooting for that character. You know, that's something that's really important to me in a show, is I want to see characters grow. I want to see them evolve. And I look at that character, I think that character has such room for growth.
As you should. And they all do kind of grow and become their own person later on. Like, this is still the first season. We're still really early into the first season. So there's a lot of room to grow for everyone so far.
I'm on DVD 3. It's fun.
I don't know if anybody has watched the new Netflix show, Ginny and Georgia, but it's touted as like modern day Gilmore Girls. And I'm still skeptical. I'm like halfway through the season and I'm still skeptical. However,
Nothing can beat Gilmore Girls.
no, it can't. But there was an episode where the daughter was out overnight that I just watched, and it was like a similar reaction with her mom and to how Emily / Lorelai reacted here. And I like to think that I'm a relatively calm person under pressure. I run a summer camp. I deal with children sneaking out of their cabin every single year. But in that moment, when it's like somebody that you truly care about, like, even the person with the best intentions, I think, like John said, like, is gonna have that reaction of like, holy crap, what do you think you're doing? What did you think of all these things that could have happened? Even if you were just reading a book at Miss Patty's and you fell asleep, like, things are gonna happen and you're gonna react, even in retrospect, like in a way you didn't necessarily want to. But long and short, I didn't make any connections to Ginny and Georgia until this episode rewatch, when I was like, oh hey, that's like a direct scene in that show.
I watched all of Ginny and Georgia. I loved it. Not as much as Gilmore Girls, but I will say that going back and watching the first season, and by the way, I don't actually usually, when I watch Gilmore Girls all the time, I don't usually watch the first season very often. It's just not particularly like it doesn't resonate as much with me as the other seasons do. Between like I'd say like between 3 and 5 are my favorites. But rewatching season 1, I'm seeing a lot of references that are coming up, like when Lorelai says, like, you are me, like that happens in that show. When she says you're going on the pill, that happens on Ginny and Georgia. So it's very clear that like, I think they've advertised it as such. Like, the creator of Ginny and Georgia has very much kind of owned up to the idea that it is inspired by Gilmore Girls in many ways. Although it's a much darker show that deals with a lot of like much darker themes related to like murder and abuse and all of that jazz.
Can we chat about Dean?
Yes, and Tristan.
Dean and
Yes,
Tristan.
please.
Sorry, I wanted to add quickly, I might be in the minority, but I actually think Lorelai underreacted in that situation. And it might just be because I have preteens and I might be going there soon, but I would absolutely flip my lid if my kid wasn't home, mother there or not. And I agree with everyone's point that Emily added fuel to the fire, but I think that fire was justified. And I think Lorelai could have blown a lot more than she did. And I think Rory kind of pushing back to her. I know they're best friends, but in that moment, it needed to be a complete mother-daughter situation. And I think it's very justified.
Yeah, and she said, she's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And all I was thinking is, well, maybe, however, very recently you've been keeping things from me. So, and you've been doing things that are making me question, like, whether our relationship is changing. So I don't know if I was Lorelai, I don't know how much I would be ultra confident I did know that nothing happened.
Yeah, and to your point there, I mean, it is the first season, and those of us that have watched the show 4,000 times see the character development, but you kind of just brought this boy into our lives, you're hiding things a little bit, you're starting to date, and very well Rory could go out with every intention of not doing something and have something happen. It happened to all of us. It happened to Lorelai, and she wasn't necessarily a bad kid either way. It's just, it can happen. Things change overnight, and Lorelai had every reason to be the way she was.
I'll make one last point on this because I have kept my mouth shut a lot because this kind of triggers me. But yes, I am not a parent, and so I don't know that side yet. And I guarantee you I probably will have to come across this at some point in my life. But I honestly feel like there's like ways to still put your point across and get what you need out and said, but there's like a way they can go about it, which is not totally feeling like, oh, my mother doesn't trust me, like Rory said, like, I didn't do anything, because Lorelai does know that she didn't do anything, because she knows that Rory's a good kid and that she has a boy in her life, but even still, like, she knows, just like she said, she's smart and she's careful, and she wouldn't bring a boy into her life if she knew that she would get into trouble and stuff like that. So yeah, Lorelai reacted the way she did, but I don't know.
I actually think that's the worst line Rory could have said right then, to say, I didn't do anything, but you didn't come home at 5:30. Like, the fight is about the fact that you weren't in your bed at 5:30.
Right, exactly.
Right there, you've done something. So while I don't like how Lorelai reacted, that's the worst line to say from Rory. That's not a defense. You were not in your bed. That's it. End of story.
Yep, I agree with that.
Totally.
So let's talk
By
about
the way,
Dean and Tristan.
we have some new folks down here. Lisa, I'm really glad that you chimed in. I haven't seen you before. Saida, is that how you pronounce?
Saida, very
Saida.
close.
Saida, you have any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I'm learning a lot from hearing everybody's thoughts. I've watched this so many times, and there are a lot of things that I wouldn't have considered. Now I'm hearing moms talk, and it's a very different perspective. So right now I'm just soaking it all in, but I may have some thoughts on Dean and Tristan.
All right, well
Let's
then
hear
let's dive in. I'm not gonna. I mean, you guys probably can guess my thoughts, so I'm gonna hold off, and I just want to hear what some of you all are feeling right now.
I'm going to start with Tristan is the stereotypical middle school boy who, pushes the girl because he likes her. And it's just so annoying.
Yeah, he's the kid who snaps the bra strap, like all of the tropes of like, he likes you so much and that's why he's so nasty. But that confrontation between him and Dean was awesome. I mean, it was really awesome because it was so dumb. I mean, just him doing that was just the dumbest thing ever. And yet I just completely bought it. And loved, like Sabrina said, it was like pretty hot when when Dean was like, because I'll kill you, you idiot.
And my question surfaces again. Do you have a man crush, John?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Okay.
With that haircut, how could anybody not like Dean?
I don't.
But asking that
Yeah.
unironically, I really do like that haircut.
Say again?
I said like with that haircut that Dean has, how could you not have a crush on him?
Right.
I'm kind of
I
joking,
don't.
also in the same vein too. I'm not.
That hairstyle's totally coming back though. So I mean, there's something to it.
I love it.
Oh yeah, at the restaurant I work at, I've seen a lot of teenagers come in with that cut now, and it's the same way with the women's jeans and stuff. Like all the stuff that I wore in the '90s coming back. It's weird.
Because it's timeless. Well, maybe not timeless, but like I said, there's something to it. There's something that's kind of I don't know, attractive about it. Some things in the '90s just need to stay there, though. Gotta admit.
I agree.
Agreed.
As a kid of the '90s, I wasn't fortunate enough to wear a lot of those. So now that I'm 28, I'm kind of getting into all of that, and I'm like, finally. But here's my piece on Dean and Tristan. I don't like Dean. I kind of think if anybody has seen Dawson's Creek and Dawson, I honestly feel like Dean is just very immature and kind of whiny. But we'll see that more.
Really? I don't see it at all. I mean, I feel like there might be some sort of something may be coming for this character that I'm not prepared for. At this point, I'm feeling like I need to just sort of soak this guy in the way he is now. Because
soak it in now. That's a good.
But
go ahead and
I don't
look at
see
him who he is now.
Because I certainly don't see him as whiny at all. He seems really grounded. He seems really cool, well-read, very confident. He's not, chivalrous, but also kind of down to earth, not over the, he just seems like, at this point, he seems like he's written to be the kind of the cool bad boy,
You're in the honeymoon stage.
Yeah. Well, the first,
but let him enjoy it.
He is in the honeymoon bad boy stage for the first couple seasons, and then
I mean, even the name Dean, the name, even the name Dean is so clearly a nod to James Dean. I mean, he has that James quality to him, you know? And so the thought that the character is going to become this like really annoying, whiny character is just like, I can't even see it. But
I've never thought of Dean as a bad boy though.
I've never thought of him as whining.
I get why you guys are saying that, but I think it's more of the fact that the character of Dean, he comes from a big city in Chicago. And so I think his appearance and his kind of laid back thing is more of the, he would be a real true city kid in Stars Hollow as opposed to the people from there. And I don't think it's so much that he's a bad boy. He just kind of has this look about him that's a little bit different. But especially, I don't know, I never thought of him as a bad boy. And I think he appears more well-read than maybe he really is sometimes. But yeah, I'm not going to say a whole lot about Dean because I have very strong feelings about Dean later, and I don't want to spoil stuff later. So,
but what I was going to say about Tristan, though, it's my last thing, and then I'll be quiet. Tristan, I honestly feel like, yes, like the whole like schoolhouse, like if a boy like picks on you, he likes you, and that type of thing. If you notice, and we'll see this more, but if you notice like the way that he was like looking at her, like after the kiss between Dean and Rory, how like he was just like slumped against the pillar and just like looking at her like he doesn't really know how to show his feelings. And so that's just how he does it. And he may come across as like the jerk or the jackass, as Dean would say. But I honestly feel like, and this is just me because I love Chad McMurray, but he really likes her and he cares for her. He just doesn't know how to show it.
He's just very insecure. And so his insecurity comes out as this kind of jackass attitude instead, because he's trying to be cooler than he really feels that he is. That's how I see Tristan.
Hey, Charlie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, well, and I was also going to say that I can kind of see with Tristan, he's never had an issue getting girls. So there's this girl that doesn't even pay him any attention kind of a thing. But that scene between him and Tristan is probably one of the most, like, between Dean and Tristan is one of the most iconic scenes in the whole show, I feel like.
Oh, cool. I feel like for me to start to really, that was definitely the most fun moment that I had with the Tristan character. Up until then, I was like, why do we have to have this character? But I'm now, especially this episode, now I'm getting to this place where I want to see the vulnerable side of that character. You know, I want to start to see how, like, whether or not he has the potential to grow or change at all, even if it's the slightest bit. So that's sort of what I'm looking for with that character, or what I'll be paying attention to, because just the constant, bugging and pulling on ponytail thing is like, it only goes so far.
And what about Paris bringing her cousin to the dance?
Oh, I was just.
And then outing herself.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. I mean, the outing herself was just ridiculous. I mean, that was like just I can't really imagine anybody ever doing anything like that. But I guess that's sort of the point. The character is this just absolutely extreme individual, as many of the characters are on the show, but hilarious. Like that when Rory finds out, though, she has sort of that interesting moment where she certainly seems to relish it, but she almost seems as though she may be using it, like she may have tucked it into her pocket as like future ammunition.
And I think that's exactly what Rory does. Rory's not going to go spread it around, but the next time there's a fight, she'll be able to pull it out and be like, you even needed a cousin to take you to the dance. And
Got it, yeah.
I don't think Rory's that
kind of start that. Paris did kind of start it with her when she was buying the tickets, that kind of trying to throw things at her. And then Paris actually was the one who ended up bringing somebody, as opposed to taking being sick, she brought her cousin because she didn't have a date. But I think that's why Rory thought it was just kind of, I don't know, that's how, I thought she just kind of took a little, I don't know, she just kind of took it away as like, well, Paris couldn't get a real date, so she had to bring her cousin after all that stuff she said to her when she was buying a ticket.
I agree. I think she may not have been tucking it in her pocket, but she was happy to have some karma there for Paris.
Do you think that Paris actually likes Tristan, or that it's more like an ego thing that she just wants Tristan to like her?
Oh no,
because
she
that
Love.
oh really? She loves him, huh?
I don't know if it
Just
got
like-
mentioned already, but it kind of, I think like,
Well, there was
Paris
this moment.
says-
There was a moment between her and Rory where she asked Rory, like, "Do you like him?" You know, and there was
Yeah.
and she softened. She really softened there in that moment. But I wasn't really. I wasn't sure.
I will say I find it a bit unbelievable, like that there's 3 guys that all like Rory at the same time, right? Like we have Dean, and then we have Tristan, and then we have Paris's cousin. I don't know. To me, it felt like a little bit too much.
well, I don't think Paris' cousin likes her per se, and it's not totally uncommon for multiple guys to like one person at the same time.
I feel like there was in high school, or at least for sure in junior high, there was always that one girl or boy that was typically new that that was like, you know, had the, like, you know, a variety of people totally allured by them, you know, without them even needing to do anything.
We have to remember too, like Rory is the new girl, so the new person always is like causing a little bit of attention. That Dean is the new guy, and so he doesn't really know the dynamic of who to like, and then we're on a TV show, and if only one guy likes one girl, it's gonna get pretty boring.
Well, the other girls were flirting. Well, one of them was flirting with Dean quite heavily there, but yeah, they're like the shiny new objects in the room.
So just a heads up, we're about 4 minutes away from the half hour, at which point we're gonna head out. I'm gonna actually make everybody who's up here on the couch a moderator, and I'm gonna just duck out. And if there are folks who are still engaged and talking, I invite you, encourage you to keep the conversation going even afterwards. The last moderator is the one who will end up ending the room. So anyway, don't want to surprise everybody with that. So just letting you know now. Saida, do you have any thoughts on this whole Dean Tristan thing?
On the Dean, so when I had watched it when I was younger, I always wondered why Rory wasn't nicer to Tristan. And then, I mean, I guess I understand now, you know, just agreeing with everybody else. He is annoying. And the Dean thing, I heard a couple of people say that he seemed whiny, which I had never thought of. And then I also never thought of him as a bad boy. I always thought he was supposed to be the all-American boy.
Is that just crazy that I think that? Like, is that just completely off base? I mean, Lorelai even kind of makes that motorcycle mention, like coming in on your motor, right? Like there's like, I feel like, and then just, you know, I mean, like I said, his name, right? Dean, James Dean, right? Like he kind of has that James Dean equality. James Dean was a like a quintessential bad boy, or, you know, a rebel without a cause, right? And so it feels like that's what he's doing. Maybe not 100%, but he seems cool to me.
I don't know. It's just weird to me now to see anybody call Dean a bad boy, but we're also only on 9 episodes in, so we got a while to go.
I also think it's because he's brand new to the town, so he's totally different from everybody else in the town. So it may be just his way. Like someone mentioned, he's from Chicago. It just may be his ways are far more quote unquote city versus the small town feel.
Yeah, on multiple occasions, people refer to Dean as, oh, the new kid, like, oh, you bagged the new kid, oh, or like, oh, is that the new kid? Like we were saying before, there's a certain charm around the new kid, and like it's that mystery and kind of, yeah, that's probably where we're getting like that bad boy sense. It's more of like a mysterious, like, oh, what's he about kind of thing.
That's how I felt. I was the new kid because I moved right in the middle, like between middle school and high school. And so I kind of got that whole, I mean, I was never the bad kid, obviously. It was two goody two shoes back then. But I kind of got that whole thing that's like, oh, this is the new girl. Like, who is this girl? And like, she comes from like, because I lived in a rich community and in no way was I rich. And so it kind of like, I kind of felt like the out of place type thing that Rory felt. So.
I mean, they said it. He's the bad boy that works at the supermarket.
They said bag.
They called him the bag boy.
They did call him the bag boy. I heard bad too.
Watch it with subtitles.
That's the bad boy. I mean, especially coming from Mrs. Patty, you know. So that bad boy.
I think she said bag boy, but
no, she did say that. She did say that. She did say that. But I heard that.
You just want your man crush to be a bad boy.
Yeah.
But actually, that scene goes to prove he wasn't a bad boy because all they did was fall asleep on the freaking whatever beanbag.
Right. Oh, I mean, she just walks in. I mean, that could be a post-coital embrace, right? Like, so she's like, look at that bad boy from the supermarket. All right, I am going to head out. This was, as always, an absolute blast, and this episode was pretty rad. Yeah, as you all kind of knew it was going to be because you've seen it a million times. I can't wait. We're going to be doing episode 10 tomorrow. We're halfway through season 1, almost, a little less than, right? It's 21 or 22 episodes.
I think it's 21.
21.
22.
First season's 21, the rest are 22.
Oh.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
so 21. So we're a little bit, we're less than halfway through the first season. Oh my gosh, it's really going by fast. Why is it going by so fast?
Wait, before everyone leaves, I had like a quick question. So like, as I've established already, like I wasn't born around the time Gilmore Girls premiered. So obviously I don't know like a lot of the expectations around like the early 2000s and stuff. And so the dance scene was pretty interesting for me because Paris had to bring her cousin and stuff. So like, was it always expected at dances for like girls at the time to bring a date? Because like by the time that I was in high school, like, being by yourself was completely fine, or even going with a group of friends was fine.
I don't think Madeline and Louise.
Oh no, bringing somebody was a big deal.
Yeah, I grew up in I was in high school in the late 90s, and if you didn't have a date, there was usually something wrong with you.
Well, I mean, I also think that it depends. It depends on whether it was a private school versus public school, and whether it was a small town versus a big city. Because I went to a high school, we had like 1,200 students at our high school. It was a public school in a big city, Miami, Florida. And I said before, we didn't have these we didn't have like Sadie Hawkins dance and all of these little like quirky little dances that I didn't even know what they were. I just heard about them on television. We just had prom. And I know that there was also homecoming, and I feel like maybe there was a homecoming dance, but I don't really remember it. I do know that some high schools had it. But there are just so many students that for me or at my school that I don't think that it was a big deal if you went with a group of friends. In fact, I feel like I've recently seen some photos from a prom from my high school, from some old friends from my high school, where they were like 5 of them all went together and posed for their prom photo, the 5 of them. And that was in the early 90s. I was in high school, not to age myself, but like to age myself. I went to my senior year of high school was 1993. So I don't know. I mean,
I graduated in 91, and I had a lot of friends who just went to the dances in groups, and
Yeah.
we had
I
four
went to
semifinal formals.
I went to prom with a group of girls and one guy that were all friends, and everybody kept asking us who our dates were.
I think that's a trope. I think it's the idea that, like, you know, you have to go with a boy and a girl. I think it's sort of a bit of a trope that is rooted in, you know, in older generations and in like, you know, in dances from like the 50s and the 60s. And it's a trope that sort of has stuck around, and it may still to a degree exist in like private schools in small towns. I don't know. I wouldn't know because I didn't go to a private school. So
I went to a private school. I went to an all-girls school in Cleveland, Ohio, and we had 600 students. And we, like, there was just a mixture. I graduated in 2008, and we were one of the first classes that like could bring the same sex to prom, or like the same sex from another school. So maybe we were just like progressive, but there was a great mixture of people who brought dates, people who didn't, people who brought girls, people who brought guys. Like it just all depends, I think, of where you went to school and what the dynamic of your town is.
That's interesting because my town is, I mean, there's like probably 19,000 people. So like it's kind of small because the only people in my town can only go to the public high school. And so in total, in all the 4 classes, it's like 800 students at my high school. So 200 per class. So it's interesting to kind of like see the dynamic because I graduated in the class of 2019. So it was pretty recent. That's my high school experience versus like kind of seeing it now. So I wanted to ask others who lived around this time, you know, and kind of viewing it anachronistically, of course, like what was it like back then? Because I can't ask my parents because they never had those experiences. So that's what I like about this group is that I can like kind of come to you guys and I was like, oh, what was it like back then?
yeah, I don't think it was that much different than in the than we're seeing in the show in a lot of ways. But I also think that specific thing about boys and girls going together and whatnot, that I feel is just sort of an older trope about dances that kind of goes back much further. I don't know if it's but again, it might be a still might be a thing in private schools and upper crust private schools like that, maybe. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna head out, but I will see all of you tomorrow. Like I said, do not feel pressured to leave, although I know some folks are on the East Coast and need to get to bed. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much again.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Regina, your wannabe 80s comment